Hey everybody, welcome to Fab Fit Friday. Today I'm testing a sleeve option for my new top that I'm working on. I had a thought about the Material Magic and the fact that I squirted it onto my knit fabric to make it easier to sew. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute, and also I'm going to show you how to draft a lantern sleeve. Now, working with a lantern sleeve, I kind of think unless you want something really structural, it needs to be a little bit softer of fabric. This fabric I'm working with is very crisp. Hi Kara, welcome. I think it's just you and me at the moment. I just started talking about how I'm working with my top I've been working on, and I want to try a lantern sleeve. Hi Andrea, welcome. Hi Kathy, welcome. Um, it's finally gotten to be a little bit cooler here in Connecticut. I went hiking this morning and it was like 33, 34 degrees. So I was able to just wear my raglan sleeve top with one of my hand knitted hats, gloves, leggings, and it was very delightful. It was nice and cool and perfect temperature for me. Um, oh yay! Um, Hi Judy, welcome. Mary is saying she is working on fleece hats for and mittens for charity. I love that. I'm actually in contact with the Mac Food Kitchen here in Manchester to see if they need any, if they need that sort of thing, because I do get them periodically in the mail, which is always so exciting. I'll put a link to the Warm Hats for All pattern, which is on my website. It's a free pattern that you can use to create fleece hats for charity, or if you want to send them to me, I will deliver them somewhere locally here. If you send them to me to offset your shipping cost, I will send you a coupon code for $10 off in my online store. So that's always a fun thing for me when it starts to get cool outside to do. So that's very nice, Mary. All right, so I just want to stand up and show you here. I'm wearing my top that I had on last week, and I just want to show you my lantern sleeve. Okay, and so what a lantern sleeve is it's a sleeve that is slashed and spread after it's cut into two parts. So I did about um, a 5 inch from the wrist. I cut off the sleeve, and then basically I slashed and spread this to make the widest part of the sleeve this seam, and then from the wrist end I slashed and spread up here so that edge matched. And it's really a fun sleeve. I am not loving how it looks in this crisp fabric because it basically just crumples up. It doesn't drape or hang nicely, so it's not really showing it to its full advantage, but I'm considering it for my sleeve for this top. So that's what I'm going to show you how to draft today. And actually, I'm going to take this off so I can lay it on the table and show you a little bit better. And then I will, what did I do with my shirt? I'm going to put on my regular raglan, and then I'll be right back so I can show you the sleeve a little bit better, my lantern sleeve. See, Diane? Ooh. All right, let me just put on my raglan. I'll be right back. Okay. I'm in love, excuse me, I'm in love with this raglan that I made um, from that fabric that I snagged from a closed boutique that used to make their own um, garments. So, and it's finally cool enough that I can wear it. So I'm super excited about that too. All right, let me switch my view here. What I want to show you is um, there's a bunch of things on this top I have to adjust. And the one thing I want to show you here is when I sewed the knit strip to the oh Mary likes my colors. I knew she would like that. I love these colors. For some reason I'm super attracted to chartreuse. I love chartreuse in small amounts. Um, but anyway, so I'm loving this. I do have black sleeves though, Mary. I didn't have enough fabric to cut the whole thing out of this striped knit. All right, so Diana's saying that she thinks it will look nice in drapier fabrics like a rayon challis. I agree with you. I'm just testing it in this fabric because I have a ton of it. I want to make sure all the pieces go together and it fits before I use a nicer fabric. I'm almost thinking for the holidays, I like the idea of a lightweight, maybe like a lightweight velvet for the top, and then something on the bias for the lower part of this top, and maybe I'll have, and then I'll see how I feel about the sleeve. I'm not 100% sure I'm even going to put the sleeve on here yet, but it was one of the sleeves I wanted to try. And before we get into the sleeve portion of the discussion, I just want to show you this up close here. I'm wondering if, remember last week I showed you that Material Magic, which makes it really easy to sew because it makes it not curl. And you can even see now, even after wearing it and having it hang on my dress form for a week, the seam allowances are still nice and flat. So I thought that's kind of cool. I'm going to top stitch around the neckline along this bottom edge, just sort of stitching the ditch onto the shirt portion of the neckline. And then I'm going to throw it in the wash and see if I remove the Material Magic, if some of this pooling goes away on the cotton fabric, because I think I either pulled it a little bit too hard, because you can see the rippling, or maybe it's because it's stiff with that Material Magic. So I'm going to test that and I'll let you know next week how that works out. I think I will have a special day after Thanksgiving, FabFit Friday. So maybe I'll have my fabrics ready to go for this top and I can show you my holiday fabrics. But anyway, so I'm going to test the Material Magic, and if washing it off relaxes it so it doesn't pull on the fabric so much, or I pulled it too hard when I sewed it on. And then I kind of want to show you just a close-up of this sleeve. I just want to show it to you on the table here. I did cut out two. I may try them both. But basically, you can see what it does is it has, like, at the wrist end, you can see it gets wider here. And I do think having a drapier fabric is going to make that look nicer as well. Let me just stop and say hi to Janie. Hi, Janie. How are you? Thank you guys for coming. So the interesting thing about this piece is it really goes on the bias because it's small, and when you spread it, it really curls around to almost a C-shaped pattern piece. I'm going to show you the actual pattern piece in a minute. But basically, I'm wondering if I put, just in terms of style, if I put whatever fabric I use for the top of the bodice, I'm also considering using that for the top of the sleeve. And then whatever I put down here for the bottom, maybe I'll use that for the bottom end of the sleeve here. So we'll see about that. But basically, I am starting to love this. I do think the fabric needs to be much softer and drapier for a lantern sleeve, unless you want to look like a poof. And I definitely do not want to look like a poof. Oh, Diana's saying, and share your turkey soup recipe again next week on FabFit. That is right. I have the best turkey soup recipe. It's like turkey tetrazzini, and you make turkey stock from your turkey, and you then you use it to make a soup. I will share that recipe next week, so definitely come just for that. It is so delicious. And we're having Thanksgiving at my sister's, and so we decided on that. But then I realized I realized yesterday, oh my God, Thanksgiving is a week away. So I texted her and I said, "Hi, can I be in charge of the turkey?" And I was holding my breath because my sister's very organized and I thought she would have like all her ingredients all ready to go and she would have already bought a turkey since I didn't say anything. But happily, she's doesn't have her turkey. So I am going to be making the turkey, my homemade cornbread stuffing, and also I'm going to make homemade bread. I think I'm going to make that cardamom bread that I made for Christmas a couple years ago that was really yummy. Hi, Sarah, welcome. So basically, that's going to be my plan for Thanksgiving, and I will share my turkey soup recipe with you next Friday, the day after Friday. It's the perfect day to make it. If you want to just make your turkey stock, like sometimes I'll get my turkey stock going that night, and especially if it's cold outside, then I can put it outside and let it, let the fat separate. But anyway, I will share that recipe with you next week, so that's kind of exciting. All right. So I just want everyone to know So Live is in the house, and she has a lovely, exciting channel, So Live. So definitely go check her out. She's been doing a lot of really cool sew along tutorials, and she's very, very good. So go check her out. She also has a social community. It's not on Facebook. Maybe check that out as well because she does a lot of fun in there. So basically, yay, I'm super excited. All right, so let me just switch back over to here. So this is what the my shirt looks like. I'm going to put it on the dress form for now, and then I'm going to show you the pattern pieces. Put this over here on my girl. All right, let me just get this. Okay, so I can bring my girl over so you can watch her while I'm showing you. I think you'll be able to see. Let me see if you can see the sleeve. Turn it this way so you can kind of see the sleeve. Let me just switch. So in case anybody came late, okay, so this is how it looks on my dress form here, and so you can see it's, it's, see the shape of it. Maybe that would have been a better way to show you versus having it on my own body, but I was interested to see how it would look. So that's what I'm going to show you how to draft today. All right, so let me just stop and see what people are saying. Oh, Sammy says, if you like sewing drama, come my way. Just kidding. Well, we all have to have a little drama, right? And then Mary says she makes cardamom bread for toast in the morning. I know, Mary, maybe we should compare recipes. Kira said it's a lot of fun on So Live. I agree. Oh, I think we're all loving the food today. I'm already hungry thinking about all the stuff we're going to be having next week. I'm super excited. Oh, Sammy likes those sleeves, and Diane says ditto to what Kara says. So. Oh, we can say so much fun. So much fun. All right, I'm gonna get back over here. I have my microphone right in front of my face. I'm really trying to make it so everybody can hear me. Let me go over here. All right, so here is my draft. I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Oops. Darker. So you can see a little bit better. And then also, on sunny days, don't like having that stripe on my table there. That does a good job of getting rid of it. Oh, and then maybe I could make it just a tad brighter. Okay, so this is the sleeve. Okay, so the top of the sleeve, you can see from the cap, we pivot and spread this portion. And then here is what the bottom of the sleeve looks like. Okay, so basically you're going to sew the sleeve together first, and then you sew the underarm seam. And just to show you what it looks like after it's just sewn together. Okay, so you can see I sewed the pieces together, and then there's the underarm seam. Okay, so I just want to show you how to draft this. And I think I'm just going to use a tiny, or like a half scale, tiny little pattern piece, because that way I'll be able to show everything and you'll be able to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to add a little bit more I'm going to add a little bit more Scotch tape to this, and then I'm going to, oops, oh, I've got some thread and fuzzies under my Scotch tape. That's perfect. All right, so there is my sleeve. And the first thing we're going to do is you want to decide how much, let me just make it, I feel like now it's dark. Okay, that's better. You want to figure out how much you want the cuff, or how high up you want the widest part of the sleeve to be. And really, you can decide to have that be as much as you want. On the one I did, I measured up 5 inches. On this half scale, I think I'm just going to, for ease of happiness, I think I'm just going to cut it across this line that I used to join it. But basically, you know, you would measure up the amount you want. So this is 3 inches, you know, and you'd make a mark. So I'm just going to cut it there, but just to show you that I'm going to mark 3 inches over here, make a mark, draw across if you don't have a line, and then you can cut it there. So now I've got my 2 pieces, and I don't have a center grain line on this pattern, so I'm going to use, you know, that as my guide. And actually what I'll do is I'll just fold it in half so I can find the center, because what we're going to do is we're going to create 7 slashes, 1 down the center and then 3 on each side. So let me just show you this. Just going to fold this in half. Oh, I guess I don't need that. Okay, so now I've got my center, and that's the center fold, so I'm just going to darken that in. Okay, so there's my center. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of try to figure out how I want to evenly distribute the slashes across each half of the sleeve. Let me just stop here and say hi to Diane Bacon. And So Live says, if anyone has pinch to zoom on the device they're watching, it now enables YouTube so you can zoom in. Oh, that's cool. In landscape view. See, I learn a lot of tech stuff from Sarami because she knows a lot more stuff than me. So you can pinch to zoom on the device you're watching, so you can do it in landscape view. That's very cool. Thank you for that tip. I might have to try it when I'm watching you. All right, so I'm going to measure from the center to, you know, the end of the cap here. I think, are you telling me that because we can't see? Let's just see if I can zoom in a little bit myself here. Let me move this over. There, that's probably better. Okay. Let me just, I'm sorry, I'm running over one of my cords. All right. So I am going to measure from the center sort of across the side of, you know, the length of the cap here. And I can see that that's approximately 1, 2, 3. So you just want to sort of evenly distribute your slashes so that they hit both the cap and the hem. So now I'm going to do that on the other side. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I've got all my slashes. Now what we're going to do is slash and spread them. And what I find works easiest, because once you cut all of these, you end up with ribbons of paper going everywhere. I am going to use a piece of pattern paper, and I'm going to use that as my base. So I've got that all set for us, like this. And I'm working on my brand new big mat rotary cutting surface cutting mat, and I don't want to get Sharpie on it, so I'm going to work with pencil today. Cool thing, if I write pencil on my mat, I can then erase it with my eraser, so I don't have to worry about messing up my mat if I'm using pencil. So here's the thing, I am going to just cut these. Let me move this out of the way for 1 second. So I'm literally just going to cut these to but not through the cap. Now if you're working with a real life pattern, you might want to put Scotch tape at the top of your slashes to create a more durable pivot point. But if one of these falls off, don't worry, because you can just tape it back on. It's only paper. But I'm just going to slash them all right now, because then I'm going to put it on my my back, like a whole piece of paper, so I won't be able to cut through with my rotary cutter after I do that. So here's all my slashes, and I'm going to put it right on here. Oops, and look at what I did. I lost a piece already, so I'm just going to put that right there. All right, let me just stop and say hi to Lean. Hi, Lean. Welcome. Oh, it's good evening there. Oh, I love it that we're all watching. Somebody emailed me from Australia and told me that she had her cup of tea and she was watching me like really early in the morning on Saturday. She was watching FabFit Friday like really early in the morning on Saturday. I thought that was so nice. I'm picturing somebody in Australia drinking tea and watching. I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start in the center. So I've got 3 slashes on each side, and just to illustrate my center, I'm just going to draw myself a little line right here. Okay, so that's going to be the center. And when I spread my sleeve, I spread it 1.5 inches between each slash. Now that is another thing you can play with, because you can make it as full or as subtle as you want. You can change the look of the sleeve by simply adjusting how much you spread each slash section. So for this version, I think I'm going to go with maybe I'll do 3/4 of an inch for each slash, because this is a tiny little pattern. Or maybe I'll do 1 inch, just so you can see something more dramatic, and you'll see what happens to the shape of the cap as we slash. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on either side, like that, and I'm going to make sure, let me just draw this a little bit longer here. Okay, because that's our center line, so I want the top of my middle to be on that line. So see how at the very top it's on that line. Okay, so I'm just gonna pin that there for a second with the corner of that pattern weight. I don't want to glue anything down yet, because what I want to do is slide to each side to my 1/2 inch and tape it. All right, so I'm going to tape this one in place, and then I'm going to tape this one in place. Okay, and then I can work on one side at a time. Let me just stop here. Okay, so Lean's asking me, what is the difference between a lantern sleeve and a bishop sleeve? I'm guessing maybe nothing. Let me get my book here. Where is my book? What is this book? Oh, so did Jeremy answer for me? Lantern has a seam down low where the volume ends up, from the seam, it tapers back to the wrist. There's no gathering at the top, actually resembles a lantern. Yes, but let's look at, since we asked, let me get my little drafting book here, and I'm going to go to the sleeve section. Okay, let me see if it'll tell me where the bishop, hold on one second, sleeves, hold on. That's always interesting to me, all the different, hold on, let me see if it'll tell me bishop sleeve. Ooh, there's a long and short lantern in here, and bishop sleeve is on page 333, so let's check that out. Sometimes I just flip through here and just really enjoy looking at. Okay, so bishop sleeve, all right, so a bishop sleeve, it appears the difference is it's gathered into the cuff instead of coming up onto the sleeve. So if we look at this, let me zoom in a little bit more. So, there we go. Okay, so you can see that you're still spreading it. And interestingly, I notice they're spreading it a little bit less in the front than they are in the back. And it's gathered up at the cuff. And then, oh, an exaggerated bishop sleeve is spread equally and spread a lot more. And notice it's more like what we're doing here. So let's look at the lantern. Let's look at the lantern. Okay, so lantern sleeve, see this right here? So basically we're going to cut off the bottom of the sleeve, and then we're going to spread it out like this, and we're going to spread it like that so it meets, and this is going to be the widest area of the sleeve. So Lean says it tapers in then after the volume. Yes, so at the wrist, the wrist edge stays the same width on a lantern sleeve. The widest part is where you cut the sleeve in half, or not in half, but where you cut the length. So see, this is how the pieces look in the book, just so you can see. So you cut it and you spread it, and then this is your wrist edge down here. That little inside circle is your wrist edge. So this is basically what we're doing right now. And it's easy to note here that if however much I spread the top of the sleeve, I have to spread, the bottom edge of the sleeve here, whatever I spread it, I have to spread it equally so it sews back together. And we're going to add a little bit of length in the back, not the front. See, in the front it's even, and then it starts to get a little bit longer past where you cut right there, and then we'll walk it and make sure these two pieces go back together. All right, so that would be, well, let's look at this one. So you can do it in a short sleeve too. So that's the slash for a short sleeve is actually not a straight line. So see how you can change the angle of your line. This is all very fascinating. I love stuff like this. I love nerding out with patterns. All right, so let's see what everybody is saying here. Okay, so Kira says the cuff seems to be the difference more than the sleeve itself. Well, I think the lantern sleeve actually creates kind of a cuff in that it tapers back to the wrist. And so Jeremy says, yes, Lean, where the bishop sleeve's volume ends at the bottom of the sleeve. Kira, the bishop sleeve also has an elastic bottom or a narrow cuff. Okay, yay, this is exciting. All right, so let's go back to what we're doing over here. So I've spread the middle. So now basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out an inch, because I decided I was going to go with an inch. And so once I've got this cemented, just to keep it from popping around, I'm just going to add some more tape here to keep that from misbehaving. And then I can measure my inch. And now if you're trying to spread your sleeve, and see how this is not laying flat here, that means you really didn't clip far enough to your pivot. So if your pivot is not really close to the edge, it's going to buckle up. So try to keep your slashes nice and close to the edge. And I'm going to put that at the inch. And then I'm going to tape that down. Okay, and then I'm going to do the next one. And I'm going to bring that one in like this. Okay, and then I'm going to do my last one over here. And I'm going to eyeball it, but that's probably very, very close to an inch. I'm a pretty good eyeballer. Here, let's measure it now that I taped it down. Ooh, look, I'm spot on, an inch. Okay, so I've got the half of the sleeve done. Oops. And I'm just going to put some tape to really hold those so they don't pop around. If you're wondering, I buy my Scotch tape in a 10-pack. All right, so there's half the sleeve. Now we're going to do the other half. And what we're going to do is I'm going to just spread this. And I can see that this is about a 1/4 inch from the edge. And you can see it's giving me an issue in terms of wanting to spread nicely. So I'm going to spread that an inch. Tape it down. Now what's happening to our cap is it's actually getting very flat. So you'll notice that the cap is flattening out a little bit because we're flaring the bottom end of the sleeve. But we're not changing the length of the cap either though, so it will sew right into the original armhole. Lean says, bishop sleeves are in fashion. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, Kira, I'll put a link. I'll put one of my Amazon links for this book after I get off. This is a really nice book to have. It's by Helen Joseph Armstrong, and it's the book that a lot of fashion design schools use. I have probably 3 different versions of it because I taught fashion design at Gibbs College, and they gave us a new textbook every year. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video after the fact. After I get off. I didn't realize I was going to pull it out, or I would have done that beforehand. All right, so I'm just going to quickly spread the rest of this. And again, I'm guesstimating an inch here. Okay. And this last piece right here. Now this piece fell off, right? So I'm just going to attach it back. I'm going to join it back at the cap. And I'm going to spread it an inch here. Now, if you don't want to worry about seam allowances, if you trim your seam allowances off the cap and then put it back on after, then you're really pivoting right to the stitch line. So that's another thing that you can do to be a little bit more accurate with this. All right, so here is our finished shape in terms of slashing and spreading. So we want to add a little bit of length to the back sleeve, and I think that helps it hang better. Ooh, Zuri the Dreamer, welcome. Leans in Belgium near the border with the Netherlands. So exciting. Yes. All right, so see, we have our basic shape here. So now what I'm going to do is, over here, this is our front, and this is our back. And we really want the longest part of our back to be like in these two slashes here. Make the view a little bit wider now. Okay. So I'm going to measure down. I'm not going to do a whole inch because this is a tiny pattern. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch. I'm just going to draw myself a guide right there. Okay, so it's down. This is 3/4. If you're doing a full size, I would do the full inch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start connecting, or I probably can connect the first 2 slashes so they're even here. And then as I get to here, I want to sort of make a nice smooth transition. And I'm a fan of dashing my shape before I draw it in like I mean it. And then this is going to go back to here like this. So something like this. And then I can use my French curve to smooth that out. And I think that might have been a little bit much for this size, so I'm going to trim a little bit of that off. Where's my little pebble? This is the best eraser. This white pebble, I love this white pebble. So basically, okay, so I'm just going to give this a nice smooth shape back into the original here. All right, so there is my shape for the bottom of the lantern sleeve. Okay, so you can see I added, I'm just going to color it in so you can see. So this is all extra length I added in the back of the sleeve, and then as I come to the front, you can see that it peters out to nothing. Okay, so that I believe helps the sleeve hang better. Okay, so that's where we're adding a little bit of extra length. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut that off. Oh, the other thing is you have to add your seam allowance. So obviously I'm going to go in and I'm going to use the short end of my ruler to add that 1/2 inch, whatever your 1/2 inch is, all the way around the edge here. And if you trimmed off the seam allowance on the cap, you can also add your seam allowance back to your cap as well. I mean, some of these things are fun to just play with. Anyway, so there's our finished sleeve with the seam allowance. Hey Jerry, welcome. Happy Friday before Thanksgiving to you too. Oh, you're grateful for all my sharing? Well, thank you, Jerry. I'm grateful that you come and join us. I really am grateful for each and every one of you, because guess what? If you guys didn't come, I'd be talking to myself, so thank you so much. I have so much fun. Friday's my most fun day. It should be F is Friday Fun Day. All right, so there's my cap. My top of my sleeve. But notice how flat the cap got. Now, just for your FYI on that, this did not have a high cap to begin with, because this was a flat constructed sleeve sample I had. So it would be a little bit, it would have more of a cap if it was a set-in sleeve. This is just the one I had, and I didn't want to waste paper printing out another one. But basically, even no matter what kind of cap you have here, it will get a little bit flatter. But notice we did not change the measurement, so that will sew into your original sleeve. Okay, so the next thing is we're going to take our little part. Okay, this is the bottom part that we cut off, and we're going to create the same number of slashes. So I know that so this bottom edge, I'm sorry, this top edge, I could fit 4 1-inch. So I know we also want to catch the smaller wrist edge. So I am going to make these slashes 3/4 inches apart, a little bit closer because it's a narrower piece. So here's my, oh, I probably almost could have gotten an inch, but that'll work out okay. The idea is you just want to evenly distribute the ease you're adding. So there are my slashes, just like I did on the upper part of the sleeve. So now I'm going to slash. So this is the top edge that's going to sew to the top of the sleeve. This is the wrist edge here. So I am going to slash from there to the wrist. So again, we're not going to be changing the measurement of that wrist edge. So I mean, you could almost consider this the cuff portion of a lantern sleeve, you know, depending on how wide you make it. Generally, when I make these sleeves, I made a top, well, it was a few years ago now, and I just bound the edge, you know, so it didn't really have, you know, to finish the edge, I just bound this with a strip of fabric. But basically, I'm going to put this on here now. And here's the thing. Remember, when you're cutting out the fabric, the paper to put underneath your piece that you're going to be spreading, keep in mind it's really going to grow. What happened when I was working on my life-size one is I had to add little pieces of paper because I ran out of paper. I didn't calculate how big of a piece I needed to accommodate the entire, you know, the entire spreading. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to draw myself a center line. And again, I'm going to want, put my ruler here. I am going to want that center to stay centered on the line just to keep myself straight. Okay, so we have to spread it the exact same way. So if I spread these an inch, I have to spread these an inch too because they will then sew together. Okay, so basically I'm gonna just mark myself 1/2 inch on each side like that, and I'm gonna get that lined up right so the pivot point is on the line and the slashed edges are 1 inch apart. Now, if you're new to slashing and spreading, like let's say you're watching this and you want to try this yourself, I highly recommend working on this piece first because the parts that you're slashing and spreading are much shorter and it'll be easier for you to manage all of those pieces and you'll kind of get the mojo for it, and then, you know, it's almost like a practice before you deal with the longer slashes that you have to deal with. So now I'm going to spread each one of these 1 inch. And this is going to be a really dramatic shape because it's a tiny little thing. It's a tiny little half-scale pattern. Or it's probably not even half-scale. But my point is it's going to be really dramatic. So let's look and see what happens. So this would be an example of how you could add drama to the full-size one by really spreading it. So, I mean, you can spread it into, I mean, almost a circle, really. I mean, you could spread it all the way into a circle as long as you have, you know, the seam. All right, so I'm just eyeballing it here, basically. So I've got my inch there, inch here. This piece of paper is extra from something. All right, so now I've got that all set. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if you wanted to even be more dramatic, oh, Saramy's telling me I could do this lower portion on the fold So like I would just have to do half. So I could stop right now and then cut this on the fold. So if you wanted to do that, absolutely. Um, so depending on the fabric you're working with, sometimes I don't like to cut things out on the fold, especially if I'm working with a print or something and I want to kind of see how the print is going to scroll around. Oh, slashing is fun. I know. Jeremy, feel free to pipe in as much as you want. All right, because you know, I don't know how to do everything. Did you know that? Like, I don't know everything. So if any of you are sitting there looking at what I'm doing and you think I'm doing something funny, always feel free to say, Jennifer, why are you doing that? Or blah, 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 because sometimes I do go off the rails. So always feel free to call me on things because sometimes I make boo-boos. Okay, so, but let me just read. The reason why you can't do this one on the fold is because, well, technically you could do this on the fold too, but you would have to leave the bottom, you could line up your underarm seams and do this one on the fold too, but then you would have to leave the bottom and then change the length on the back. Right, Sammy? Sammy says, yes, thank you. I mean, put the paper on the fold. Jen is right. Don't do that whole thing cut on the fold. Oh, to make the pattern piece. Yes. Yes. All right, so let me show you what Sammy means. She means if I folded my paper like this, now we're done because it's on the fold. The other half is underneath us. So let's do it that way because that's actually quicker. Going to cut it off of my thing. All right, let me just see something here. So Fun says, this is so interesting and helpful. Love the options. Every case is unique because of the fabric too. Oh yeah, the cap is not symmetrical. That is true. But don't you think if you just line up the underarm seams, like if we had just lined up the underarm seams just to get the slashing and then opened it and then cut the underarm seams, don't cut here and don't cut here, right, and then opened it up, you'll still have the difference here, and then you can create the difference down here if you wanted to do it on the fold, I think. So Jeremy is also correct that every time you slash, you might be off a breath, like a little 16th or something. So if you fold this in half, then you know that the other side is going to come out exactly the same. And I am going to, whenever I work on the fold, I put a couple pins to hold the layers together so they don't slide. So I'm just going to put a couple pins here. Okay. And then I'm just going to draw in this top edge to my, do this. So I'm just connecting the tips of the slashed pieces right now. So see how that looks, right? Then I can add my seam allowance. So let me do that. When you're doing a curve, just use the short end of the ruler and dash it in so you get an accurate. Okay. All right, so there is my seam allowance for the top. I am not going to add an allowance down here because this is the bottom of the original sleeve, and I'm just going to wrap that edge with a knit or a woven bias piece of fabric to finish it. Oh, Sammy likes that I drafted without seam allowance. It's more accurate and easier for beginners too. That is true, because seam allowances can screw you up. All right, so after that's all done, I'm just going to cut it out. And because I've pinned it, it's not going to shift. So there's my fold right there. I'm not going to cut the fold. Oh, Actually, I need to make sure I continue my seam allowance across here. All right, so then I can just cut that, and I'm just going to cut that. All right, so now we have the bottom of our lantern, and you can see, oh, here's our rejected half right here. I'm just going to put that away. Basically, there is our piece, and that's almost a half circle, right? So now the last thing we have to do is check it, because anytime you cut something apart, you want to walk it back together to make sure it's going to sew together, because you know you might have made little boo-boos on these slashes that don't agree. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to line it up right there, and I'm going to use my, I think I have my oh, I don't know where my little stiletto is right now, so I'm just going to use the tip of my scissors as a pivot. So basically I'm going to line it up. Now here's the interesting thing, because we could have walked it before we did the seam allowances, I'm going to line up the stitching line. So this 1/2 inch right here, I'm going to line it up with that 1/2 inch right there. And notice that because they're opposing angles, the little tip of the seam allowance is going to poke out past the thing, but we don't care about that. We're just lining it up on the actual stitching line. So really, I probably should have walked it before I added the seam allowance. But basically, I'm just going to follow along here, and I'm pivoting it on the seam allowance. So I'm just pivoting along. Like this. And let's see how accurate I was. And all right, well, I'm not accurate. Look at. So this is why you always want to check. I'm about a 1/2 inch short. So all of my eyeballing got me in trouble somewhere. So to find out where it's off, instead of starting from one end and going across, the better way to do it is to start at the center. So here is my center. Oh, and actually, the screw up is probably on my sleeve, because this one I didn't have. But just to see, I'm just going to put it in the center of the sleeve like this, and I'm going to walk it. Just walking it to see which side is off. Okay, so this side, when I get to the end, it's about a 1/4 inch off. So I bet if I do this one, it's a 1/4 inch too. So let me just see that. Hold on 1 second. So I'm going to get in the center, and let's walk this way. Oops. Is that in the center? Oops. Let's get that right in the center. Okay. All right. All right, so let's walk right along. All right, so this is, I guess, good news, because this edge is a 1/4 inch shorter on both ends. So my choices are, I can either extend this out a 1/4, or I can trim a 1/4. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim the 1/4. What did Mary say? Mary says, remember you dropped the lower sleeve line, making it longer. Yes, Mary, this is longer. So to fix it, since this is correct, well, all right, so maybe my slashes weren't, you're right, so I'm such a dummy. Obviously, this edge is shorter than that edge. The more curved it is, the longer it is. So I am just going to, and I think the easiest thing to do to fix it is I'm just going to fold my paper in half again, put this here. I'm just going to line up the middle of my sleeve, or my cuff here, and I'm just going to pin it on. I don't want to tape it on because I want to take it right back off, but I'm going to pin it right on the fold in the center. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that quarter that it's too short. Mary gets a gold star, by the way, that she pointed that out. I'm going to bring that out a quarter, and then I'm just going to bring it back down to the original wrist. So now I've added to both ends, and then I'll just trace this. And now we have a accurate pattern. So see? There we go. So now this will be correct to that. So that's how you do a lantern sleeve and make corrections. So keep in mind, I guess before you cut out the lower piece, walk it so you can just add that little bit. So the amount that I added about a half an inch of length to the bottom edge of the upper sleeve. So it might be a little bit different when you do it though, so check and see. But I guess don't cut off the side seam edge at the bottom, at the top of the cuff until you test it. So that's my exciting little thing today. I'm going to keep working on that. Some of the things I want to do to this shirt is I'm going to raise my base of my neckline about an inch, maybe even an inch and a half, because I don't want any cleavage showing. I'm going to look for some fabrics that are soft and drapey, and I'm going to try to get those together so I can show those to you the day after Thanksgiving, and we'll share recipes. So I'm super excited because cooking is my other thing I love to do, cooking and baking. But anyway, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I am working on a new pants pattern, and I just want to put it out there. When I'm ready for pattern testers, I'm going to be looking for pattern testers in a variety of sizes. So I want to try to get pattern testers for every size or every other size. We'll see what happens. But the way the pattern testing is going to work for my new pants pattern is I'm going to have a Google Doc that you can go to fill it out. You can tell me your measurements and your size and some other things, and then I will pick pattern testers from that. But the requirements are that you have to have it cut out by the date that I decide to do a live of Zoom, and then we will be working on sewing those pants together on that day, because I don't want to wait weeks and weeks and weeks for pattern testers to get back to me, because when I do pattern testing in the past, it has held up the launch of my pattern by months. So basically I'm going to be looking for pattern testers to test my new pants pattern, and the requirements are going to be that you have it cut out and ready to sew on the date that I pick, and then we'll all get together and sew them, and then you can ask me questions. If things aren't working, you can we can talk about it in real time instead of you trying to do it on your own. So that's how I'm going to do my pattern testing. So that'll be coming up soon. I'm guessing maybe in another month, but probably not before Christmas. Well, I don't want to do it in a holiday rush, so I'll see. But anyway, that is coming. All right, so let's just see what people are saying. Oh, Jerry gave Mary a gold star. I love that. Suri the Dreamer said it's like a puzzle. It is like a puzzle. You have to make sure all the pieces go back together after you cut them apart. Um, Thank you guys. You're all thanking me. Thank you. Um, and I do want to wish everybody a fantastic Thanksgiving. Um, oh, Dimples73 says, just made your raglan sleeve pattern. Love it. Great directions. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. I will tell you, of all my knit tops, my favorite knit top is my raglan. Did you get the little extra kangaroo pocket? Because that's free on my channel. But anyway, so I really had a lot of fun today too. So thank you guys for coming. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'll see you the day after if you're not Black Friday shopping. I'll share recipes and maybe I'll even share the muslin of my new pants. So I want to make it sort of all fun and surprises on the day after Thanksgiving. So maybe I'll have the fabric for my shirt. Maybe I'll have the muslin done of my new pants. I want to sew it up in a size before I get it graded. It's not my size, it's just a size close to me so I can see if it's all going together at this point. But anyway, thank you guys so much. This was so much fun. If anybody's working on their bodices and they have questions, or if you're trying the sleeve and you have questions, please post those below and I will help you. I am so proud of myself. I'm keeping track of all of my questions and answering them in a timely fashion, so I'm super excited about that too. But anyway, so you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you next week after Thanksgiving. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Um, oh, Diane says, ooh, new pants muslin, happy me. I am teaching top down center out pants fitting this weekend, so I'm going to have a really fun weekend teaching that class as well. Oh, wait, Dimples73 has asked me, what size did you make on the raglan sleeve pattern? All right, so this is the 14, but I straightened out my side seams. So the side seams on the pattern come in for a waist shaping, and because I am very straight, I straightened out my seams a little bit, and the kangaroo pocket is sized for all the sizes as well, if you wanted to do the kangaroo pocket. So, okay, so I think nobody has any more questions. So I'm going to sign off and have a lovely rest of your day. Happy Thanksgiving!